response, and that is leadership. That's what the L stands for. So this is for your leaders in each unit that you're going to go to. And we're giving you this training here specifically because you are our future leaders. So the purpose of this is we're raising awareness. We're trying to educate leaders so they can prevent this kind of stuff from happening in the fleet. Give you the tools you need to be able to respond to it when you see it. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and kick off the first video. This is going to be a discussion back and forth. So after we watch a video,
hello, shipmates. I'd like to talk to you about something that I'm concerned about and I'm pretty passionate about. We have a problem in my Navy, we have a problem in your Navy, in our Navy, and it's sexual assault. Every day we have this happen on board our ships. Now here's our reality. Think about this. We have shipmates assaulting other shipmates. People who go to sea together and fight the ship, people who fight the casualties on the ship together, who depend on one another, are assaulting one another.
On any given day, as many as 3 individuals in our Navy and Marine Corps are sexually assaulted. And that number doesn't begin to reflect the severity of the problem. Many assaults go unreported. Our own report shows the majority are blue on blue. 1 in 3 involves a senior assaulting a junior. Think about it. Shipmates committing crimes against shipmates.
This is a readiness problem, and our people need to feel safe in all of their environments. Now I need your help on this. We need to get to the left of this. We need to find out why this happens, and we need to prevent it. And we need to get away from the environment that causes it. And we've had problems like this before, and when we've had a focused approach by leadership, we've solved the problems. I need your help on this. We need your focus.
I just don't know. I'm in shock. I knew something was wrong. I tried to stop it, but I didn't do enough. None of us did enough. How did this happen? Beck and I started serving together 19 months ago. Right from the get-go, we got along great. Did really good work together. Hope joined the crew a few months later. That's when Beck started acting up a bit, but we aced every inspection, and Beck was a great LPO. And about 2 months ago, Walsh joined our crew.
And finally, this is SC1 Conway and the man, SC1 Beck.
Hi, I'm Petty Officer Walsh. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hello. Alrighty, if you go with Seaman Harris here, he'll take you to the Combat Systems office.
Thanks again for showing me around. Nice to meet you all. I guess I'll see you at muster tomorrow.
I know, right? About time we got some fresh meat around here.
Yeah, could use a woman's touch.
I'd like to get me some of that. Bet she's DTF.
Hey, come on, man. Right. Dude, you wouldn't know what to do with a girl if she fell in your lap.
Oh, and you do?
You're damn right. I make a real sailor out of her.
Like you'd even have a shot at a woman like that. I mean, she's cute, not just boat cute.
$100 says I do.
Easy money.
Hey! Learn how to focus for more than 5 minutes. Get this place cleaned up.
Sorry. Hey. Conway.
What?
You went in on this action? How about 50 if we pass this inspection?
Now that's easy, buddy.
Walsh was a quick study, and she made life in sea was better for everyone. Beck, he sort of nominated himself to be her mentor, but even as a mentor, he spent a lot of time with her.
Well, for me, it was my uncle. He retired as a command master chief, and growing up, he used to tell these amazing stories about the Navy, and, you know, I guess you could just say I got hooked on the dream.
Sure, I get that, but fire controlman? It's pretty hardcore. And don't take us the wrong way, but we don't get a lot of the ladies in this line of work.
Well, actually, that's a big part of why I wanted to do this. Is that weird?
No, not at all. I'm impressed, and I'm always impressed with a woman that knows how to make those buns look good and handle a multi-million-dollar weapon system. Seriously though, it's really cool. Master Chief Walsh. And I can help you with that. I know everything there is to know around here. I'll show you the ropes.
You've been a huge help already. I was having a pretty tough time getting that gun barrel installed, but I think I've got it now. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. No. Hey. Watch out for some of the dudes around here. I got your back, but when I'm not around...
I grew up with 3 brothers. Trust me, I have never had a hard time putting a guy in his place before.
All right, then.
That's him.
He's adorable.
I know, right? He wants to be a golf pro, but he's not very good.
How long have you guys been together?
A couple years.
You guys are so lucky.
I know.
Well, I gotta go and watch, so I'll see you later.
Okay.
Who's that?
My fiance. Well, boyfriend, technically.
Technically?
We've talked about it. I know he bought a ring. I found it right before we got underway, but he doesn't know that I know, so more like my not yet fiance.
Let me see.
Come on. Come on.
Hey, come on, man, give it back.
Okay, okay. I'm sorry. Honestly. So, anyway.
Beck was laying it on pretty thick. If I hadn't known him, I would have thought he was just trying to make Walsh feel like part of the team. But I knew him well enough to know something was a little off.
Yeah. We'll make a fire controlman out of you. Yeah, so we can make sure all the gun covers are removed.
Now, I'm no saint, but I've always considered myself a pretty good guy. Have a pretty good sense of right and wrong.
Pulling those straps.
I mean, we all push the boundaries sometimes. But Beck, when it came to Walsh, there was something different about it. The way he acted, the things he said, the little things, they just, I don't know, they just kept adding up. This wasn't just the occasional stepping over the line. This was becoming a pattern. And the frustrating thing was, I felt like I was the only one on the ship who had a real issue with any of it.
Amazing timing.
I know, right?
Score!
Dude. What?
What's wrong with you?
Do paintings scare you, Conway?
Come on, man. Get the hell off. Seriously. Grow up.
I ran after Walsh.
Walsh, hold up.
I wanted to say something to her, warn her. But for some reason I didn't. I couldn't.
FC2 quote. Report.
Hotel's all set for this weekend. It's gonna be hot. Johnson's girl's gonna be there. And get this, she's gonna bring some of her friends. Tallies, man.
Nice. Sucks you're gonna have to work for it, though. Walsh is coming to the party, so, you know.
Whatever, dude.
If you're just mad, I'm gonna win the bet. I can take your money now, or we can pay up first thing Sunday morning.
We never shook on it, man.
Maybe not first thing, if you know what I mean.
Really, Beck?
What?
Is this gonna be Key West all over again? I seem to remember saving a certain someone's ass.
Chill out, man. Nothing happened that night.
Yeah, because I saved you before you did something stupid.
Yeah, you saved me. She was completely game.
Are you out of your mind? She couldn't even stand up. And she was in high school.
She said she was 18. And hey, man, surprised you even remember.
Yeah, I got,
You had her cornered in the freaking head. I had no idea what Beck was planning, but from where I was sitting, Walsh had no interest in him. And that didn't matter to him. Every time I tried to talk to him, he blew me off. So I decided I had to say something.
Okay, so we're squared away about liberty. But before I let you go, everyone knows the policy on this sort of thing. Yet once again, I find these just lying around. This kind of crap has no place in the shop, understand? I don't care what other shops get away with. I will not put up with this. Time we brushed up on our core values. Got it? Good. Dismissed.
Chief, ma'am, may I speak with you for a moment?
Where's Conway? Everything okay?
Yes, ma'am. Well, no, not really. Well, I'm a little concerned about some things I've seen between Beck and Walsh.
Are they in some sort of relationship?
No, not that. I think Beck has his sights set on Walsh, and it's hard to explain, but I just don't like what I'm seeing.
There have been a few times where I thought that Beck was being a little too friendly with Walsh, but she never said anything about it to me, and I've seen her stand up for herself more than once with you guys. I'll talk to Beck about it.
Thanks, Chief. Ma'am.
Chief, is this something we should shake up the chain?
Honestly, it seemed pretty harmless to me. I think for now it's best to deal with this at the division level, man. Besides, Beck's been doing a really great job of mentoring Walsh. She can be one hell of an FC.
Good to hear, Chief. But I think we still need to look into it.
Roger that, man.
If you'll excuse me, I have some reading to catch up on.
I was really paranoid Beck was going to think I snitched on him. I wasn't looking to get him in trouble or anything, but something had to be said.
Beck. Chief? Word on the ship is that you're being a little too friendly with Walsh.
I'm her mentor, Chief. It's my job to
I've seen you mentor her, Beck. I don't see you mentoring any of the guys around here like that. Getting all up close and personal.
I don't mean anything by it, Chief. She's off limits anyway. Got a boyfriend. Practically a fiance. Like, if you look like I crossed the line, I didn't do it on purpose. She's been knocking out her balls. I actually just signed off for backfire.
Yeah. Just keep it clean. We good?
We good, Chief.
And that was that. Problem solved, crisis averted. Then I find out. When were you going to tell me?
What are you talking about, man?
Liberty. We're not splitting the room?
I'll set you up with Harris. Or maybe...
I don't want to pay for a full room. I don't have that kind of money, man.
Dude, chill. Hope you're gonna find you a bunkmate. I already booked the king size, and you know, three's a crowd.
So what are you saying?
Don't be so uptight, man. Liberty's gonna do you some good.
Beck, he's the one for Chief.
Yes.
And Walsh is the new female CWIS tech.
That's the one. He's her mentor.
Well, so they're supposed to be spending time together.
Yes, but one of my sailors expressed concern that it may be more than that.
What are you doing about it? Did you talk to him? Did you do formal counseling?
I talked to Beck and I told him to keep himself in check. He assured me that it was a non-issue. Honestly, I don't think we have anything to worry about. Walsh never
Got it. Got it. Just keep me updated.
Just keeping you informed. Thank you.
just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. From what I hear, you're really impressing the chief with how fast you're knocking out your quals.
Oh, yes, ma'am. It's definitely been an experience. I'm learning a lot.
You do have a great teacher. Beck is our CWIS ace.
Oh, he's been really helpful. Actually, all of the guys have been pretty helpful. Although working here does keep me on my toes.
Yeah, it's a tough environment. Guns and guys all day long. But I think it's going to make you a strong sailor. You know you can come see me if you need to talk about anything.
Yes, ma'am. Everything is okay, though, really.
Okay, and I mean that. If you need anything, my door is always open.
Yes, ma'am.
We were all looking forward to Liberty. Some downtime was going to be good for all of us. And I figured I'd keep an eye on things at the party. Worry about the mess with Beck later. Maybe even take it to the chief again if things didn't change.
How are you doing, ladies and gentlemen?
Nice, Chief.
Looking forward to Liberty?
Yes, Mr. Chief.
Oh, this is a fun town. Enjoy your time. But set an example for this ship. A good one.
Yes, Master Chief.
There was music, alcohol, girls, games. Everyone was having a good time. I saw Walsh drinking, and I know I should have said something. She was barely 20, but I just didn't want to make that my problem. I tried to keep an eye on Beck, but ultimately, I failed.
I don't think this is my floor.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Your room is right down the hall. We're almost there. I got you. I'll take you there. It's okay.
I need to call my boyfriend.
Yeah, we will. Yeah. We'll call him. We're almost to the room.
Can't find my phone.
It's okay. We'll find it. We'll find it. I'll just take you to your room.
This is not my room.
When Walsh put the pieces together, she filed an unrestricted report. I saw her a couple of times on the mess deck after that. Then, she was gone. Expedited transfer, I heard.
Why did Beck have to go?
Pope blamed her for what happened to Beck. Removed from the ship, investigation, charges, court-martial. NCIS was here. Command is all shook up. Things are just not good. How did we let it get to this? Not that I've had much time to figure it all out anyways. The increased workload is out of hand. Extended hours, double shifts. We're all picking up the slack. We're all hurting. I tried to stop it, but I didn't do enough. None of us did enough.
As we've seen in this program, sexual assaults cause terrible personal pain, lower team morale, undermine unit cohesion, and weaken our warfighting ability. This crime violates our core values of honor, courage, and commitment.
We need to all collectively declare that we're going to eliminate sexual assault in the Navy. I need everybody, all leadership's involvement here. We need to be sure that our sailors understand the significance of this.
Send a message of zero tolerance for inappropriate behavior. Reduce the stigma that keeps some victims from coming forward, and provide maximum support when they do. Encourage sailors to step in and intervene when they see fellow sailors in trouble or about to cross a line they shouldn't cross.
Sexual assault is contradictory to our core values. We have to provide an environment where our people feel safe, and we have to treat everyone with dignity and with respect.
All right, so again, this is interactive. So when I ask a question, the quicker responses I get, the faster we can move on, which you guys want to get out of here. So if there's long pauses, I'm just going to wait so you guys can make this go smoother. All right, so the first question is, you heard the CNO, or I guess that's the former CNO, because this is from 2012, and we're waiting for an update. So as you heard the former CNO asking each of us to focus on eliminating this crime. That means we have to be alert for behaviors that might not be appropriate in a professional environment. Thinking back to the movie, what actions or behaviors jumped out as potential warning signs?
He put his hand on her back, and she looked like she felt uncomfortable with it.
Now, for those of you that sat through some SAP reviews with me before, what would you constitute putting your hand on someone's lower back as? What would that be in the continuum of sexual harm? Is that sexual assault, sexual harassment?
Physical contact.
Which would be what?
That's harassment.
Harassment. So what have I defined before, if you remember? What have I defined is the barrier between sexual harassment and sexual assault?
Sure, the area where like a bikini would get.
So if it's touching anywhere where that would cover a female's bikini, or be covered by a female in a bikini, that is under the Constitution, or under the Constitution of sexual assault. If it's on the back, or the lower back, or the leg, or the ankle, something like that, then that's going to be under sexual harassment. Again, there's gray area in there. So just because you touched a leg and it wasn't a part that would be covered by a female bikini does not necessarily mean it would for sure not be a sexual assault. I just want to make sure we understand some of the definitions. What are some other the warning signs that we saw from the video?
He made a bet with the other guys, other sailors, that he would hit that.
Okay.
So
After he watched her go upstairs and move her backside.
Definitely did.
Sir, he promised her that he'd be able to get her the rank of Master Chief Petty Officer, and in a way kind of mentored her and forced his way into like her relationship to him, and kind of the relationship that would form as a result of that.
When he had her pinned against the wall in the P-way, and he realized it was wrong when a chief walked by, and so he moved back from that.
So that's an interesting point. So we've talked a lot about what Beck kind of has been doing to Walsh. Well, let's talk about, that's a good segue, let's talk about kind of more the leadership. So what do you think about the chief who watched that happen, and what was his response to that?
It seemed like throughout the whole video, the whole, like all up and down the chain, everyone assumed it was less than it was, and they all kind of failed to insert themselves as much as they should have.
I think the Master Chief kind of just blew it off like, I don't have time for this, handle it, and if something happens, let me know, kind of thing, rather than take it.
That's literally one of my bullets here, is what to listen for. The CMC seeming unconcerned or too busy to properly address the situation.
And then later, when the Command Master Chief went up and told them to set a good example when they went on liberty, it just the way he said it was very kind of. He didn't sound serious one bit about what he was trying to, like, setting a positive example and not doing anything mess up.
Do we not think that the chief did a good job? I mean, he went and talked to Beck. He basically said, like, hey, what's going on? I've seen something going on. You know, you're not going to do it again, right? He said, yeah, he's not going to do it again. You think that's a good approach?
The chief only talked to one side of the situation. He talked to Walsh about how she was feeling, and then he could approach that with Beck.
Okay. Well, think about it from this way as well. So sexual assault's a crime, right? Who's going to admit to doing a crime before they do it? Hey, you're not going to rob the bank tonight, right? Okay, good. Yeah, I don't have to worry about you robbing the bank tonight. And then you go rob the bank. So how is their word, if they're a criminal and they're going to do a criminal act, how is that sufficient in terms of getting involved and intervening? I would say, obviously, we can, that's a rhetorical question. We all know that that is not appropriate. Someone else have a question over here?
I thought about the leadership. So the ensign approached her. She did offer to talk to her, but she also kind of condoned the atmosphere, just saying like it's a man's environment, guns and guys, and it's going to make you tougher. So she didn't really make her feel as comfortable as she could have.
I also feel like, what they should have done is actually just like tackle the issue directly, like ask the questions that need to be asked, like, is Beck harassing you? Rather than like kind of playing around the whole situation, getting things so that she'll open up about it, like rather than just asking. I feel like that would have been more effective.
With the ensign, even when she was going to talk to her, she praised Beck, and he's the master of the Sea Whiz, so it'd be a good mentor to look up to, spend more time with him type deal, when that could have been the problem area that had already been brought up to her.
And also, how comfortable is someone gonna feel bringing to your leadership, a complaint about someone they just called out as their star performer and who everyone should be like? You're not gonna feel very comfortable going to that leadership and saying, hey, I got an issue with Beck. She's gonna be like, Beck, Beck's not the problem here, you're the problem here. So you risk that kind of situation as well. It's like one more comment we have about leadership.
I feel like, with leadership, I don't know, I feel like Welsh, I don't want to say she set herself up, but there are definitely situations that she felt uncomfortable. And even the chief made a few comments about how she never went up to him and addressed that with him. So she should have taken the initiative to kind of either assert herself more with Beck and telling him that the way he was acting was unacceptable, or talk to the chief or the ensign.
So as a leader, you need to kind of set the environment and set the tone to allow using the chain, but when the chain's not working, have that open door policy where someone can tell you something big or major happening at your command. Because I can assure you, the CEO would rather have someone walk into his door to tell him something like this, and he may say, have you told the chain? And they say no. He would rather know that than have NCIS knocking on his door because a sexual assault just took place. So keep those things in mind, that utilize the chain, but keep that also open door policy that I think most of us at least put out here. And we say, hey, if you have a problem with me, then go talk to Lieutenant Shawanas about it. If you have a problem with Lieutenant Shawanas, go talk to Gunnery Sergeant about it. So we want to make sure that you're using the chain of command, but you keep that environment where major things need to get reported, they're getting reported, as opposed to just holding back because they're afraid of their chain of command. At this point, we'll move on to the second video before you start it. So we have an important role as leadership to ensure the safety of all our shipmates. And again, this is not as much applying to you here. Again, it's within the battalion, yes. But more so what you're seeing out in the fleet and getting prepared to lead sailors. So many times, because we don't hear about sexual assaults or sexual misconduct, we wrongly assume it's not happening. Just because the statistics are not getting reported does not mean that it's not happening. A lot of times people are staying silent, and we know that just because we know of the sheer probability of a sexual assault taking place. How many males, how many females in their lifetime stand the risk of getting sexually assaulted? Well, based on what the Navy is reporting, there's no way those two are matching up. So more are happening than what we're hearing about.
Sexual violence offenses include rape, sexual assault, aggravated sexual contact, abusive sexual contact, forcible sodomy, oral or anal, and attempts to commit these offenses.
First and foremost, sexual assault is a crime.
It's a crime. Period. Full stop. We cannot tolerate crimes of any kind in our Navy because we can't do our mission. We have to be warfighting first, operate forward, be ready. We can't do that if we're involved in criminal activity.
Every day, I read all the situation reports that come out of all the different organizations in the area, and a day doesn't go by that there's not a reported sexual assault. And we know from reporting that that's not even 100%.
I would tell commanders that it happens 3 times a day. I see reports 3 times a day. And that's from a crime that's so underreported. I mean, it's the most underreported of serious crimes there is.
Many commanders, and I was certainly guilty of this, if there's no sexual assaults reported in your command, you assume wrongly that there are no sexual assaults. If you just look at the statistics, though, you go, okay, it's happening in my command whether it's reported or not. It may mean that I don't have the type of command climate that facilitates the reporting of sexual assaults.
I think in American society as a whole, that sexual abuse, sexual assault of both adults and children has been the dirty little secret for a long time, that as a society we just are not comfortable coming forward and addressing it openly. Department of Defense, the United States Navy, is just part of American society. I mean, it's no different. We should anticipate and have the same problems in the Navy that you would find in the civilian community.
It hurts me to see it,
But, you know, it's out there, it's a crime, and we need to do something about it. But it's very close to home. I mean, it's very close to home to all of us.
A lot of times, the victims know their perpetrators, are friends with their perpetrators.
The majority of our crimes are service member on service member, sailor on sailor. And to me, being former active duty and doing this job for a long time, even to this day, it's still shocking that we have sailors who are offending against sailors.
We refer to that as blue on blue. It's our own service members. And so that's not only devastating to the individual, but certainly devastating to the unit.
Sexual assault is a term that we use that encompasses a lot of different offenses. It's not just what they would think of as rape. It's inappropriate touching. There's contact offenses. There's a spectrum under the rubric of sexual assault that constitutes all of the different offenses.
It's a devastating crime against males and females.
Typically, the notion is that this is a male-female problem, but really it's a human problem. It's not a male-female problem. It's a human being problem, and it's about power and victimization and people using sex as a weapon.
When you understand what this crime is about, it affects everyone.
If one of our sailors hurt, we're all affected by it in some way, shape, or form.
Our Navy ethos. We are United States sailors, ready guardians of peace, victorious in war. How do you say that with pride and confidence if you know in the back of your mind there's a threat of sexual assault?
A couple facts we'll pay attention to. So in fiscal year 11, there were 408 unrestricted reports and 174 restricted reports. So the statistics are that 1 in 4 females and 1 in 6 males in their lifetime will experience sexual assault. So the Navy has over 300,000 sailors in it. So do the numbers. I mean, obviously that's in a lifetime, not necessarily just at a snapshot in time. But do you think that a total of 580 plus sexual assaults is the big picture, is the real snapshot picture of where the Navy's at any given time? There were 300,000 people in it. Add the Marine Corps, and there's another 200,000. So obviously we know there's a lack of reporting, and they explain why. Like they said, 2/3 of all reports are blue on blue, which means Navy on Navy. When you hear that term, or green on green, or green on blue, green's Marine Corps, blue's Navy. So when you hear those terminology, that's what that is. And then 1/3 are from superiors abusing subordinates. So a couple examples of those. The CEO of the USS Monson, DDG 92, was relieved in 2011, loss of confidence, his ability to command stemming from allegations of misconduct. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. The XO of the USS Roosevelt, DDG 80, was sentenced during court-martial to 1 year confinement. He was convicted of 3 counts of wrongful sexual contact, assault consummated by battery, and conduct unbecoming of an officer. And then just recently, I think it was either last week or the week before, so this is off script, just my own knowledge of it. The CEO of HSC 25 out of Guam was on a detachment or some kind of trip to San Diego, sexually assaulted someone, was running from the police. So he has not, I think, been convicted yet, but you can imagine that got found out 2 weeks ago. And this is a guy who is well known and doing well in his community. Who knows what they're going to find out of how many other reports there were, so pending another CO. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter who you are, or what rank you are, what color your skin is, and whether you're male or female. This can happen to anyone, and honestly, sometimes the least suspecting people are the ones that commit these crimes. Excuse me. So one thing I'll just note that, is sexual assault always a male on female crime? No, we've heard this before. So we know that it can be anyone. By statistics, there will be more male on male sexual assaults than any other kind, just because of the sheer number, and although it's 1/6, there are more males in the military than there are females. So if you break down that number, there'll be more male on male sexual assaults than there will be female. We saw from Chart the Course, a perfect example, that is a male on male sexual assault. One of the other issues that you saw from the video is blaming the victim. And that's just something you never want to get in the habit of. Now, as a victim advocate, I don't care what the honest truth is. I care about supporting the victim advocate and never questioning what they're saying, never making them relive that story, and never making them feel like they have to defend themselves of their actions. They may have set themselves up in a bad scenario by being intoxicated, by maybe wearing clothing that was inappropriate. But they didn't put that clothing on, and they did not intoxicate themselves and say, I want to be sexually assaulted. It was never a choice of theirs for that to happen. So regardless of anyone's personal opinion, you need to break the barriers and allow people never to victim point. Because all you do is re-victimize the person, and that's the worst thing. You don't know what they're going through. So before you rush to judgment when you hear maybe on an unrestricted report, you need to understand that it's none of your business. Let the process work itself out. Let them go to court. Let them find the suspect in question, and it'll go from there. But again, you don't go up and you ask them what happened. You don't replay them. You don't ask them why they did this, that, or the other. That kind of stuff is inappropriate. And then another myth. A lot of times there's a myth out there that most sexual assault claims are false. So especially when you hear the Duke lacrosse team and football teams and all these things, the immediate reaction of many people is to say, oh, that person's just looking to be famous, or there's some other motive. Over 95% are always proven to be true. So the statistics are well in favor that if the person is claiming that they were sexually assaulted, that they were sexually assaulted. And there's not necessarily a reason to question that. So it's another myth we need to break. All right, moving on to the third video before we start. As a Navy, we have the power and the obligation to proactively take measures to prevent sexual assault. There'll be several tangible, and this says bystander intervention. We changed the term to intervention. And we talked about all those during Chart the Course that our sailors can employ to prevent sexual assault. So now they'll go into that.
We used to walk around our spaces and we would see, racing magazines or pin-up calendars and so forth. And when you look at those in isolation, you kind of think, okay, what's so wrong with it? Okay, fix it. Don't want to see those again. So in isolation, it may not seem to be a problem. But when you think of the entire continuum of harm that starts from low-level sexual harassment, if you will, all the way up to egregious sexual assault, rapes, then when you view those magazines or pinups or calendars, you start to see them in the context of the entire command climate and that continuum of harm.
What kept me awake at night wasn't what I did know what was going on, but I always wondered, what are the things that I don't know is happening? What are the unknown unknowns? And how can you can't be everywhere at once. You're not going to know everything. But who do you use as a sounding board to understand what's really going on? Sure, you can do command climate surveys, and that gives you part of the answer. People may or may not be candid on those.
There's no substitute in the end for face-to-face, day in, day out involvement with your people. And being down there and just understanding them and what they're going through in their lives and building that rapport so they're comfortable enough to come to you when they have something important to say.
That's the kind of leadership, I think, that changes the culture, especially when it comes to this sort of problem. It's the kind of leadership that says, I know how the chow is. I know what your gas mask size is. I know what your spouse's name is. I know where you're from in the country. The kind of leadership that is not intrusive, but is concerned and caring. The kind of leadership that can tell the sailor's name even when the sailor's not in uniform. That's the kind of leadership that will make a difference in this problem. And I know that we have it.
Does that mean that we need to be a touchy-feely people? No. Does that mean we need to be aware of the human element that empowers our mission ability? That empowers our mission ability. Yes, absolutely.
There's communication down, and that's important. But what I've found that's sometimes even more important is their ability to communicate up.
You can be stern, you can be tough, you can be a hard leader, but at the end of the day, the sailors need to know that you care. If they know you care, then they will step up through the chain of command and the wheels will get in motion. All this is a process, and if these sailors come forward, it's going to just help us all out in stopping this.
You don't have to be a senior leader to set the tone. You can be a junior leader. And if you have good senior leaders and good chiefs, and I've been fortunate to have both, they'll tell you what's expected and show you what kind of leadership you need to be providing, and then you go ahead and do that for your junior sailors, and you create that entire culture. And if you empower people that way, you'll find that even even below your supervisors, even just guys working in the shops for the first time, they'll step up and do the right thing. They'll show leadership because that's what they're seeing, and that's what they're going to emulate.
I heard this saying one time, and I think it really rings true when you think about sexual assault. An ounce of example is worth a ton of advice.
In the Navy, we want to change the culture. We want to make sailors feel more empowered to positively act when they see unwanted behaviors.
When we talk about honor, courage, and commitment, we talk about honoring one another, having the courage to intervene when it comes to risky behaviors, and the commitment to one another, that you need to keep each other safe. Not only do you need to keep the victim safe, but you need to keep potential perpetrators from making the biggest mistake of their career.
Bystander intervention is essential not only for sexual assault, it's essential to generate that command climate, the positive command climate where anyone can come forward, can say something if they see something that is incorrect.
If we're relying only on the leaders to stop this problem, then we're not going to stop the problem. I need every sailor in our great Navy to be thinking about this, to be trained on this, and not be afraid to step up and do the right thing.
So they said a lot of pretty important things, and some of the questions I'm going to ask are going to tie back to what we learned in Chart the Course, and if you remember from prior years, bystander intervention. So a key aspect of sexual assault prevention is education. Sailors need to know the facts about sexual assault, such as what it is and what to watch for. In particular, they need to know that stepping in and intervening is always the right thing to do for a fellow sailor, regardless of rank. All our sailors are being taught intervention training in a school, and we need to reinforce them. So what important points should you emphasize to your sailors about intervention, about what you learned in Chart the Course?
See something, say something.
Okay. What does that mean?
As soon as you see something that shouldn't be happening, say, like, tell, like, the chain of command that something's wrong.
Yeah. So a perfect example would be what? Maybe Conway, way earlier in the phase, telling the chain of command as opposed to waiting until things escalated to where they did. What else?
So the buddy system is really, it's highly underused, and I think it's probably the most effective, because if you're, if, I'm not blaming the victim, but if you're, if you and a friend are there together, she, and she already knows that, you're a little drunk, they're not gonna let you go up, to any room with, some guy that, it's not gonna happen. So you really just have to, watch out for each other. Like,
Yep.
hey, you got me. That's
When you
it.
say some guy, what do you mean by some guy?
Like, I know that perpetrators usually, they know their victims, but if you're there with a friend, like, I'm not gonna let my friend go up to any room with anybody if she's drunk. I don't care if he's gonna put her to bed, it's just not gonna happen.
I just want to make sure you're hitting the point that it's not just some random person you met at the
No.
party. They could be someone in their unit that they know very well. So most of these are all the individuals know each other. And as you've all gotten your wolf alert messages of bell tower, now that was the one instance that you heard with the bell tower where the victim did not know the assailant. But in most cases, all those wolf alerts I've seen since I've been here, I think every other one of them has shown that the person knew the other one. So realize that that's another thing to take away. All right, so what are the ways to intervene? What are those 4 methods we use to intervene that we've learned over the last couple of years here? I'll give you the first one to re-spark the memory. Direct intervention. Talking to the person who's acting inappropriately to the potential victim. What else?
Indirect method, sir.
And what is that?
Either getting someone else or finding like another way to try and approach the person you think is the perpetrator and trying to get them away from the victim.
Okay, so they list that suggests that someone observing the situation might be concerned about the person's conduct. Like, hey Selkie, I heard that Staff Sergeant Enright was thinking maybe what you're doing is a little inappropriate. So you're kind of you're not the person that's saying, hey, I think what you're doing is inappropriate. Like, I heard that this happened. What are the other 2? Distraction. Utilize creative options to distract the people involved in order to de-escalate the situation. This may involve humor or appealing to other interests of the people involved. And what's the fourth one? I saw a hand up right as I started reading.
Get them out of there, sir.
Not exactly the textbook answer, but sure. So protocol. Report what you observe up the chain or other authorities to seek guidance on how to respond. So maybe that's when you're calling the police and actually saying, hey, the police are on their way now. So thinking back to the video, think of those four terminologies and give me one example of how each of those could have been used. So direct. What could have happened at that party that could have been direct intervention?
Conway could have just stopped them before they were leaving, or just took the drink, took her aside.
Exactly. Distraction. What else could have happened?
He could have, Conway could have distracted Beck while one of Beck's friends, no. Conway could have distracted Beck while one of Walsh's friends got her to a room.
Okay. And anyone could have, it couldn't have just been Conway, anyone could have distracted Beck. Indirect.
He could have maybe sent another girl to go sit in between them. Separate.
Yep. But remember, indirect is more like, hey, I kind of heard that someone thought what you're doing is inappropriate. I would say you going and sitting in the middle of them, it's kind of on that gray area. Again, sometimes it's not black and white, so maybe that's a little gray area between direct distraction and indirect. To just go literally put yourself in between, but act like that wasn't your intention to kind of break up the conversation. And lastly, protocol. What could Conway have done for protocol? Not a hand up, you're just playing with the mic. Okay. Well, I got you. Give me one. Protocol. What could Conway have done protocol part?
Protocol would be call a superior.
Exactly. Call the chain of command, let them know what's happening. If you wanted to, you could call the police, but at that point, had Beck done anything illegal? Well, a lot of people in the room are underage drinking, so that could have been an issue in itself. So again, these are just, we learned a lot of this stuff on the intervention training, so I'm not going to go into it too much. So next we're going into how do we respond. So fortunately we can do everything right and an assault can still happen. You can have that perfect command climate, but you can't necessarily stop the criminal from doing the crime. Our response to sexual assault can do more harm than good despite our best intentions if we're not aware of our roles. Support, report, and initiate the official investigation. So remember, you start asking a bunch of questions and counseling the person and making the victim explain it all to you, that might be doing more harm than good. That's what that means.
Can you imagine how much courage it takes to knock on that door or to make that phone call or go to see your command chief, your master chief, whoever, or certainly the XO or the CO, say I need help?
What we have seen is that victims are sometimes hesitant to come forward because they're afraid of how they will be perceived. They know this is a long process. Their entire sexual history will be laid out for everyone to see. It's uncomfortable to talk to even your closest friends about your own personal, very private details, and now you're going to have to talk to 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 people about these very intimate details.
Part of it is just the nature of the crime and embarrassment. Part of it is not wanting to relive through the assault. Part of it is collateral misconduct, underage drinking, or whatever that may be. And unreported, the perpetrator will not be held to account and may assault again. So we can't either help the victim or pursue the perpetrator if the crime is unreported.
You just want to make sure that you are aware of who she needs to talk to or he needs to talk to get the proper help that's needed.
Right now they have a very robust SAPR program. They have sexual assault prevention and response specialists that work for them. They have SARCs, we call them response coordinators. We have thousands of victim advocates out there in the service.
I've been in 32 years in our Navy, and I will tell you, it is night and day compared to what we had back then as to what we have now. We have the services, it's okay to access them, and it's okay to bring your wardrooms, bring your chief's messes over and show them what those services are, introduce them to what SAPR is all about.
The SAPR program is one that you should be able to quote as if it's scripture. Because guess what, in the event something happens to one of your sailors, we don't have time to pick out the book and start fumbling through to find out, oh, well, what happens here?
But you never want to react to something and learn while you're reacting.
The more we work on our supporting the victim when they come forward and showing other victims how supportive the entire system is, I'm sure that we will see more people reporting because they will have more confidence in the system that the system's going to take care of them and they're going to be protected. And so with that confidence comes increased reporting because now people are not afraid to come forward and tell their story.
Our best measure of the number of sexual assaults in the Navy right now is the number of reports. But part of a command climate that encourages sailors to feel empowered, both to intervene when they see something wrong or to report sexual assaults, is we expect the number of reports to go up. It doesn't mean necessarily the number of assaults is going up, but we would expect, as we're more successful, for the number of reports to go up.
We're trying to prevent them the best we can, but you can do everything and still have a sexual assault. Most likely in a social setting that has alcohol involved. And so once you take care of the victim, then you need to let the process work. You know, NCIS gets called in, and the JAG gets called in, and the senior leader needs to, as hard as it may be, step back and let those people who are expert at investigations and adjudication take over from there.
I think from an NCIS perspective, what we really try to impress upon leadership is that once a victim comes forward and reports that they've been victimized or a victim of sexual assault, is there really a need to drill down and get details?
Why are we there in the first place? We're not here for that. So that's how you re-victimize a person. That's how you oh, was alcohol? Did you drink? Well, that's probably what happened to you. You got drunk and don't even remember what happened to you. That's re-victimizing a person. We don't do that. We don't want to do that.
What's really hard, especially for type A personalities, is to sit on your hands. And I'll tell you that that's what's required. As you get older, like me, and you start, having gone through many cases now of just military justice, one of the hardest things to do is to allow the system and the process to work.
There's a lot of gossip, there's a lot of drama, sailors talk, they complain, and you'll see a lot of people forming their own opinions as to what really happened. Usually the truth is somewhere in between, so that creates tension at the workplace.
Leadership has to step in, intervene, and say, listen, okay, I'm pretty sure you may have heard what may have happened or taken place, but we're not going to be judgmental. We're not going to pick sides. We're going to continue to conduct ourselves and conduct business the way that we're supposed to every day. That's where leadership has to step in and play their role and stop it from escalating, stop the rumors from spreading around, stop the false accusations from spreading around.
A leader needs to look at it and say, okay, I have this allegation of a sexual assault. I need to be able to support the victim and help the victim and get the victim all the services that they need. But I also need to protect the alleged offender and make sure they get all the services and the support that they need. And let the system and let the legal system and the justice system work out what actually happened.
We'll just go on to the next video and then we'll tie it all together at the end. This is the last video.
I think where it needs to start for leaders is asking ourselves, what do we believe? Because what we believe will drive how we behave. If we believe this is a crime, that this is just wrong, that this is something that no one person should have a right to do to another person, if we believe that in our heart of hearts, then we'll behave in a way that'll be very transparent to all those that see us and all those that we have the privilege of leading.
I think our citizens entrust us to have a higher standard, because ultimately they know they're asking us to go fight a war. And the fog of war is huge, and so they have to know that we will uphold our values
no matter what situation we're in. They count on us doing that because it represents the United States of America.
We have core values, honor, courage, and commitment. So we can take each of those core values, we can honor each other, we can have the courage to address this, we can be committed to making sure that we get rid of sexual assault in our Navy. Because we are the Navy, we can do this.
Look, we're the greatest Navy in the world. We've dealt with problems of this size in the past. And I know with your commitment, we'll resolve this.
Okay, so I just want to go over some quick piece of information so you're aware. So the people that have the access to restricted and non-restricted reports, restricted and unrestricted reports. So unrestricted, it's still a need-to-know basis. It doesn't mean you just make an announcement to the command. But ultimately, multiple people in the chain of command are going to know. A restricted report means that only SAPR victim advocate has that exclusion where it doesn't have to tell anyone. A SART, which is a civilian, and it's kind of like the tier up. It's like would be my boss. I report to a SART as a unit victim advocate, and then a chaplain. Those are really the only 3 people that have immunity that do not have to disclose a sexual assault if it's reported as a restricted case. You can always go from restricted and later change it to unrestricted, but you can never go back the other way. So once you go unrestricted, it basically means an investigation is going to start. A criminal investigation is going to start. Restricted just means, all right, we're going to notify to the CO a sexual assault took place. And that's all he's going to know. Just statistically, he's not allowed legally to ask questions about it. He's not allowed to try to push the victim advocate to give him information. So that's how the restricted versus unrestricted report works. Other things to keep in mind, you've heard there was an expedited transfer in the video. What that is if there was an alleged assault and they think that the criminal and the victim are still in the same place and there could be a risk, which there is at that point, the service member's request must be acted on by the civilian officer within 72 hours. So in 72 hours of filing that expedited transfer request to get away from that situation, the CO has to have you off his ship or out of that command. There's military protective orders, which is basically like a restraining order, but can only be implemented on base. If you needed anything outside of town, you would need to go to civilian court to get a restraining order. Article 120 in the UCMJ takes effect here, so there's a lot of legal issues that can take effect, both NJP or UCMJ that covers it. Question is up?
Sir, just for the chaplain's comment, are you talking about civilian chaplains as well, or is this Navy chaplains or?
I'm talking specifically Navy chaplain. If you report a sexual assault out in town, then it's going to start being acted on by civil authorities. NCIS, if it happens to someone in the military, they'll try to get involved, and there will be some kind of coordination there. But I'm saying if you're reporting with all military entities. Civilians have different rules, for instance, and different states have different rules. So in most states, medical professionals also have immunity. You go to California, they do not have immunity. So if you're in San Diego, one of the biggest bases, or Camp Pendleton or something like that, and you go to a hospital and you get a, yeah, it's not called a rape kit, it's called a SAFE kit, a sexual assault forensic examination kit. And you get that done, legally, they still have to report that it took place in California. So, any other questions about that? Yeah, I'm kind of rushing here at the end, but I want to make sure that there's an understanding of what the process is.
Sir, if a restricted report's filed and the CO finds out, does the rest of the ship find out, or is it just the CO?
It's not like I would, so a little different here because of how small our command is, but if this were a ship, there's a SAPR point of contact. That's not a SAPR victim advocate. They've not been trained to handle restricted or unrestricted reporting. All they know is they're basically the watch bill coordinator, and they're a buffer layer so that a victim advocate does not have to disclose anything to the CO and feel pressured. Because victim advocates are not necessarily officers. They're all ranks. There's E3 victim advocates, there's E7 victim advocates, there's O5 victim advocates. So it's all ranks. And so when I went to the course last year, there's, like I said, there was pretty much everyone from E3 to, I don't think anyone was senior to me. So then it was me and maybe 1 or 2 other O3s there. But they're all ranks that are victim advocates. SAPR point of contact says, hey, we have one in our command. They'll assign Lieutenant Ansel, you're going to be the victim advocate for this case. And then they will notify to the CO, we've had a restricted report filed. And that's all they're going to disclose. The CO can ask a bunch of questions. He can say, well, who's the victim advocate on it? And that SAPR point of contact is not allowed to disclose that. Now, if for some reason I'm in an aviation squadron and all of a sudden I'm pulled off the flight schedule for a week straight because I'm dealing with something else, well, it's gonna be obvious that I'm the victim advocate dealing with that case. But he's not allowed to press me and ask me questions about anything going on. Any other questions about that kind of stuff?
Lieutenant Ansel, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I just wanted to use the mic.
As students of NC State, are there resources available here at the university because
So,
we are students?
Because if you are, unless you're active duty or a dependent of active duty, then you can't come to me well, you can come to me, but I don't have the permissions and the Navy's not gonna give you the resources that they would an active duty sailor or Marine Corps. So the exception to that is if it happens to you on summer cruise, and then you come back to school and you decide a year and a half later you wanna file a report. Because the incident took place while you were in active duty, then you would be covered by all the military resources. So what does that mean? If you came to me and started disclosing stuff, I'm gonna refer you out to student health because they have resources and there's a hotline, which I don't have a PowerPoint with it. They are posted outside my door and we'll make sure that they get into basically your guys' share drive if it's not already there that has the sexual assault hotline, and there's both a NC State one, as well as like a 1-800 number you can call, and I apologize again, I don't have that number in front of me, but we'll make sure next lab that you guys get all those resources. To answer your question, I'm trying to think if there's, so ultimately, unless you're active duty, the Navy's not gonna handle your case, whereas you're just gonna be referred out to the school here or other civilian resources. But if you are active duty, or your parents are active duty, and you're covered under their TRICARE, then yes, you will be covered just like any other active duty member. Any other questions? We're gonna push the equal opportunity brief to next week. I'm sorry to disappoint you all. But that is all the questions I have, and that'll be it. So, Team Commander, Company Commander,